It's Ryan Fowler here with my good friends Tim Costello and Jordan Kurtz. The Inner Game Group live every Saturday. We have a good one today. Steve-O is going to drop some wisdom bombs here and kind of talk about his past. His dad was actually CEO of Pepsi Company. Who would have known? But
well, he was the CEO of Pepsi in South America.
Pepsi in South America. Okay, very good. So a lot of interesting insights today. He's going to talk about his childhood PTSD. There's a lot of points for us to riff off of. He's going to talk about using pharmaceuticals and how it actually does help him. So I'm sure we're going to have some things to say about that. But before we dive in, Jordan and Tim, introduce yourselves.
Jordan Kurtz with Jordan Kurtz Hypnosis. Like these two, I am a hypnotist. I help you find and locate your inner limiting beliefs, and we remove them, and so that you can live life, whatever matters most to you. We want you to be able to live life to the fullest, your way, however you like.
Isn't that the truth?
Yep.
I'm Tim with TimCostelloHypnosis.com. And like Jordan and like Ryan, we are hypnotists. And I'll say what Jordan just said in a different manner. As we grow up, we develop those limiting beliefs that Jordan mentioned to you. We help you reprogram those limiting beliefs so that deep down at your core, you now are 100% less troubled by the things that were caused in your childhood. And those are the limiting beliefs that Jordan was talking about. And we will get to a lot of that throughout this show. But thanks for being here.
All right. Very good. Thank you, Tim. So, Jordan, you already have the clip queued up. So I will let you go ahead and load it, and then we'll,
Do people know who Steve-O is? I was looking him up.
Steve-O from Jackass. So
Yep.
Yeah.
most people know who he is, but
I
for
didn't know
those
who
of
he
you-
was, to be fair.
Oh,
but
you didn't? Okay.
I did not. I just looked him up, and I said, "Oh, he's a stunt performer." It looks like.
Yeah.
Yeah,
So
he's wild and obnoxious is what he is. That's his whole gimme.
yeah, and
Yeah.
so Jackass TV show, it started out on MTV, and they basically pull pranks mostly on each other, and a lot of their pranks involve doing stunts or pranks where they end up hurting themselves. And so they do a lot of crazy, wild, ridiculous stuff, and it often involves a lot of physical pain, such as I think they're going to show a clip of him throwing himself onto a bed of mouse traps, and they all go off, and
Yes.
they just
Those
do.
Crap.
They like to cause pain to each other's genitalia in particular. So they're really
They're
really
like 15-year-olds with money.
yeah, 15-year-olds with money hurting each other's dicks and other stuff. So good times. But yeah, he actually has some pretty profound insights here. So let's go ahead and dive in, and then he covers a few different topics. So at the end of each topic, we'll comment. So go ahead, Jordan.
The title of this video it's a clip from Iced Coffee Hour. It's why mental pain is worse than physical pain. So
put yourself through a lot of physical pain. How does it differ from mental pain?
Oh man, it's a great question. For the most part, when I've experienced physical pain, there's been a tangible reward in the form of video footage, which was valuable. So I feel like I've been handsomely rewarded for the physical pain that I've endured for the most part. Mental pain, it's more insidious and less rewarding. I'm a big fan of a prescription I take called Zoloft, which I believe protects me from like a morass of dark thinking and
Mhm.
even at times like ideation of self-harm. I take this Zoloft and I'm free of that for the most part. But I look back on times when I wasn't taking it and it's scary.
How would you describe depression for someone who's never
Let's
experienced
go ahead and
that
pause
level
right
of
there.
depression?
I would just
Go ahead.
Yeah, so him mentioning Zoloft, I have taken, now I haven't taken it for 20 years plus, but I've taken probably over a dozen antidepressants, anti-anxieties, because I used to have C-PTSD, manic depression, general anxiety disorder, just a whole host of stuff. Tim knows, he knows me when I was screwed up. And I was mostly off the meds then. I was taking a few with you, Tim, but I took a lot more before. And they can help for some people. For me, they kind of like this, and then the side effects just sucked. So what wasn't a good fit for me. But with that said, it's a Band-Aid. It's a Band-Aid, and really for me, and what I've noticed for a lot of people on these antidepressants is it just numbs them out.
Correct.
And the problem with being numbed out is it numbs out everything. And so, but with that said, hey, it's better than nothing. It's definitely, hey, being numb is better than being in pain. So, to that extent, that's working for him. And in some limited circumstances, again, I'm not a medical professional. I'm just giving my personal opinion. I know a guy who had manic depression that I met when I was in my, he was a family friend. So when I first got manic depression, he talked to me. The medications helped him. But with that said, it really doesn't need to be that way. You can just remove the wounds and fix them and cure them, and then you won't need to numb the pain out. He has pain to this day. He has the pain. That's why he needs the medication. When we're talking about physical versus, mental pain, he'll get into it more. But that's the thing is a lot of mental pain because it's psychological subconscious trauma, and it's based on beliefs that are in you from your childhood. If you don't change those beliefs, that pain will persist your entire life. And you will need that medication your entire life unless you fix the deep down subconscious belief and pain. And that's what we do, is we fix these painful beliefs. So that's all I had. Any comments, guys?
Can I ask Ryan, do you think that taking that prescription helps kind of numb him from the highs and lows of the stunts he does? You think that helps
maybe. I'm not 100% sure, but possibly.
Yeah.
So let me throw down here just a little bit.
And I could just talk about my experience and the experience of people I talk to. It may be a little different from him. Yeah, go ahead, Tim.
So the word insidious, now I'm looking up, it comes up with a movie, of course. I looked this up before when we were doing things, and if you notice, he made a difference between the physical pain that he suffers from the stunts and the mental pain that he suffers from his childhood. And he says with the physical pain in all the stunts that they do, and they do some pretty rough stunts.
Yeah.
He was compensated greatly, which means he's made millions of dollars to compensate, which has bought him good medical care, good medical aftercare, hypercare, whatever you need. He has been able to recover to an extent from all these physical injuries. So he's sort of not back to ground zero, but he's back to near ground zero physically. Now, when he talks about mental pain, it was insidious and not as rewarding. I can tell you it's not rewarding at all.
And there's no upside to it.
Right. I think that's his inference, is that he's saying it sort of comedically, but he's saying, hey, it's insidious. So what does insidious means? It's proceeding in a gradual, subtle way with harmful effects, which means and he's describing when he comes off of the SSRI he was taking, which was Zoloft. What would creep back into his mind were these thoughts from his childhood and the programs that are running. And he'll describe later, and we'll talk about it, but he was abandoned emotionally.
Yeah.
He
Among
was,
other things, yeah. That was a big one.
yeah, probably abused to a certain point, probably somewhat physically, because he said his dad was a tough guy. And, you know, so there's a lot of things going on. And he even mentions about this childhood experience, and we can talk about that later. But essentially, all of the mental pain, not all, 98% of the mental pain that you suffer through is likely caused by the environment that you lived in as a child. And by the way, the opposite is true.
Yeah.
The opposite is true, right? So if you had a great environment as a childhood, then you're functioning better as an adult or whatever. So both sides of the coin will play out as we go. That's all I got there.
Yeah, and one more thing I'd like to highlight. He's going to go into this. His physical pain led to attention and emotional validation.
Yep.
So he was willing to go through all of that pain to get that attention. He'll talk more. So we'll keep going unless you have something, Jordan.
No, he's probably not the only one. I imagine if he interviewed the other people on the show, Jackass, they'd probably have similar stories.
Yeah.
As well. All
Okay.
right. Well, let's keep going.
Describe depression as that, like, in a word, helplessness, in equal measure, hopelessness. Yeah, like a deep sadness that you feel devoid of hope and devoid of help. It's dark, man. It's scary. And I think that the antidote for feelings like this is to articulate it. You know, I think that again, like with the voicing your insecurities, by like, it takes power out of it. If you can tell just another person, if you can speak up about what you're feeling, what you're going through, that I think that is the strongest medicine to get you through it.
Just pause real quick.
Yeah.
That is only a temporary fix. And it doesn't even completely work. You'll feel a little better talking to others. Some people actually feel worse talking to others, but he still struggles with depression, which means doing that doesn't fix it. It's a temporary Band-Aid. That's all I think there may be a little bit of external validation that you might get from another person who might be suffering through the same thing. So as you bring up some of the things you're talking about, they can sort of validate it for you, but it can help.
Because that's external validation. There is never enough of that all day long to mask what you're going through. And as Ryan said, he still got the depression. It didn't help.
Yeah.
So it's not a medicine. It's not something that's going to help you get rid of it. It may help you deal with it for a second. If that's a bad word to use, deal with it.
It's like taking an aspirin. You'll feel better for 4 hours, then it wears off.
It's even less than a Band-Aid than the medicine.
Yeah, and the reason, very important concept here. Once you're an adult, external things that happen externally do not rewire your deep belief systems once you're an adult. And so those belief systems are still there. And we're gonna hear about why all of that hopelessness, helplessness, it's tied to his childhood. We're gonna dig into that in just a moment.
So I'll add on to what Tim was saying. I think if you're talking with someone else who's struggling with the same things, it can be validating. I think also telling somebody else, if they give you a certain amount of compassion or concern for you or love or that, that's another form of external, I don't know, validation, but just external, just positivity.
Comfort.
Right. And so it's not really the fact that you're sharing. It's the fact that what happens as a result of the sharing that perhaps creates that temporary lapse in pain or just lessening of the pain.
External things can temporarily change how you feel.
Correct.
But they won't fix the underlying belief system. And by the way, I know exactly how Steve-O feels because I have been through that too. I had manic depression is bipolar type 2. It was mild mania, is very, very severe depression. I know exactly what he's talking about. And I can see this dark look kind of come over his face when he's talking about that. And it's like, yeah, I know exactly what that's like. It's optional. If he knew what we knew and then he just did the sessions, he'd be cured. He'd be cured in a month or two or less.
Yep.
He'd be permanently cured.
And you notice his body language freezes up a bit when he
does.
He goes into recall.
You see it.
Kind of closing that. He's already pretty close.
You see that darkness coming to the surface as he's talking about it, and then he switches the subject a little, and you see it go away. Yeah.
I think he's re-experiencing it when he's recalling it.
Yeah,
a little bit. Yeah, for sure.
Okay.
Yeah. I thought I had one point. I was talking about. He thought the only antidote was the talking about it with people.
That's the only antidote he knows of. The only thing that makes him better temporarily.
And that's interesting because I've heard other people experiencing depression say that the opposite is true for them, where the more they talk, they don't want to talk about it, or other people might try and get them to talk about it, and they don't. It's hard to relate, and so it can be difficult to bring those out. And so I'm curious if that's how he felt initially and then figured out that this was a temporary help, or if that's just his own experience. Like, I doubt he kind of started that way. It seems like it's a very private experience, because if you feel hopeless, I imagine you don't why would you try and, if you feel hopeless, why would you try and pull yourself out of it to a certain, doesn't it take a certain amount of activation energy to get out?
Well, you feel hopeless, but you're in pain, so you'll try anything.
Yeah,
that's true.
Trust me, I've been there. I've been there. Yeah, you feel hopeless and helpless, but because of your pain, you have to do something.
And what, I guess, maybe you can answer this question. What's the because some people stay trapped in that, right? They don't get out. So what do you think is the threshold between, because if you feel completely hopeless, and that's painful, but isn't there a level between I can't do anything and that makes me feel hopeless, between I feel enough pain where I have to do something?
Yeah. So
see what I'm saying?
Yeah. So and listen, I've been through all of this. I've been through times where I slept until 2 p.m. 10. I don't think you've seen me sleep until 2 or 3, but you see me sleep until noon back when I had my trauma, Tim.
There was a middle afternoon day or two.
Yeah. So you do anything you can to feel better, and you don't know what to do to feel better. So you might cycle back and forth between stuff. You might just sleep a lot. You might play video games till 6 a.m. I mean, if I play video games all day, I'll be like, man, I kind of wasted time. I won't be super depressed or anything like that, but I'll be like, I got other stuff to do. Why am I just doing that? Actually, video games, I still play them, but most of them are boring. There's a few I still like. A lot of them gotten more boring because there's so many aspects of real life now that I enjoy. So I'm much more picky, and I don't play them nearly as much as I used to. But
real life video game in a way.
Yeah, so you'll play video games, you'll engage in addiction, alcohol, whatever, something to make you feel better. You'll ruminate, you'll talk to friends. You just try all these things, and some things help a little bit. Now, I can tell you right now what's going on with Steve-O. He grew up in an environment where he was neglected. So now when he talks about his feelings to someone and someone's listening, that's his antidote, because he's like, here's someone who cares and is listening to me. So that is going to temporarily, the source of his depression is mostly neglect. So having someone listen to him, which is what he did not get as a child, is going to, that is the antidote for him, but unfortunately, because it's what he needed as a kid, and if someone gives it to him now, it'll help. But unfortunately, that does not rewire his subconscious belief system. To rewire his belief system, this deep core belief system formed in childhood, he needs to come to us and have us do sessions for him, or use the free program on school.com right there. Join our free community, school.com/RyanFowlerSOS-7231. There's a free self-hypnosis course on there. I did an interview. It's on my YouTube channel or on the videos section. A guy had 10 out of 10 depression. Use that free program. His depression got cured. He listened to 4 or 5 audios, 10 out of 10 depression cured, in his own words. You can watch that on the video section. I use this to cure my own depression. And, we do sessions all the time, and 95% of the people come to us, we can help out. And we do. And we permanently help them out, and they're just massively better and different. And some are moderate, some have moderate trauma, and they're moderately better. Some have severe trauma, and they're way better. So you can go there, you can join. You can go click on the classroom right there. And that's our old group, Mind Chrysalis. The new one is Ryan Fowler SOS. But the content's the same, SOS free. You go there, you take the free course in the classroom section, but it's Ryan Fowler SOS now, not Mind Chrysalis. That's the old one. Go there, take the class. Start upgrading your world. The free course will show you how to rewire your deep belief systems. If Steve-O took the free course and took it seriously, he would get way better, like permanently better. But, unfortunately, Steve-O doesn't know us, and we are one of 1,000 people that would come to him saying we can fix him, and we have the real solution, and he wouldn't be able to tell us apart. Until we get big enough. The reason I'm going into I have a lot. My old job is estate planning, because of some legal changes coming down the road. I got a lot of estate planning work now. But as soon as I get through that, we are taking these techniques to target salespeople, because they're going to track the data. Jordan, you did a session for a salesperson. I've done sessions for like 6 or 7 salespeople. They all have massive increases in their sales. Like 10x, 2x, 3x, 50%, like all huge increases. So once that data gets quantified, then people are going to start listening to us, because they're going to see data they can't ignore, But with that said, you don't need to wait until that gets out. You don't need to wait until, we're a company bringing in 2 million or 10 million a year or whatever. You can get the free program right now, find out for yourself. So that's all I had.
So let's go back a little bit to the part of the clip that we saw. He describes this depression as helplessness, and in the same amount, hopelessness. Yep. As we do what we do through hypnosis, one of the things that we do once we clear the trauma is we go back and connect that person with their inner child. That inner child developed to a certain point until they didn't receive what they were looking for, and then they were left alone. And then they started generating programs in their subconscious to help make themselves feel better. And what they have lost is someone to love them, someone to let them know how good they are, someone to help them feel safe and secure. And quite frankly, probably one of the most thing he's talking about there is neglect. He doesn't even feel like he belongs to a family. Yeah. He doesn't even belong to himself. So guess what? He is stuck at that age where his inner child was left off. And in that helplessness and that hopelessness is probably a bit of that inner child wondering when they're going to be helped. So Steve-O is experiencing that helplessness, the hopelessness, and he really wants that connection. All of us. One session, bare minimum, we would clear about 40% of his depression, if not more. One session, permanently. Yep.
Within 5 sessions, he'd be 100% cleared, probably more like 3.
Yep. Okay.
100%. Or let's say north of 90%. And it'd be replaced with feelings of self-love, self-validation, self-approval. He would be happy for no reason at times. it would be a huge change. And I'm just saying that because I have had very severe depression and I fixed it with this. I know what these techniques do because I have also done this for hundreds of people, and you guys have helped lots of people too with it.
Absolutely. All right, let's keep rolling. He's getting into the good stuff now.
People, they find a permanent solution to a temporary problem.
Mm-hmm.
It's because they didn't speak up and they weren't vocal about what was bothering them.
In terms of the physical pain, did you have a certain experience or something where you realized that you kind of had a higher tolerance for it, or did you,
I don't.
you do you not think that you have a higher tolerance for it?
No.
I find
that
you
so
realize
surprising.
that's insane to hear.
I get a
As
paper
like a
cut
viewer?
and I'm
Oh, he
like,
freaks out. Yeah.
I had a popcorn kernel stuck in the back of my throat and it ruined the night.
Yeah.
It was all I could think about for hours, and it was a popcorn kernel.
I mean, as a way
To be fair, that would drive me crazy too.
Yeah, me too.
Yeah.
That's a pretty specific example.
Yeah.
You know.
illustrate my belief that I don't have a high tolerance for pain. If I did, then I wouldn't be reacting in these situations where I'm experiencing pain.
Mm-hmm.
I think that the fact that I don't have a special tolerance for pain is evident in the fact that I react to pain when I'm in it. And it's that reaction that people find compelling and entertaining. The secret to how I'm able to force myself into painful situations is that my desire for attention outweighs my desire for comfort.
Boom, right
Bingo.
there.
Interesting.
Let's talk about that.
Go ahead.
He
And
is
this-
willing.
This is proof emotional pain is worse because our brain, above all, wants us to avoid pain. And what's happening with him is that by experiencing his brain is telling him, by experiencing this physical pain, you are going to get validation and approval, which is going to temporarily mitigate your emotional pain, which is the greater pain. That's why he does it. Because his overall pain is less, because his emotional pain is lessened, and that's the worst of the two pains. So his brain saying, yeah, do this, man. Your overall pain's gonna be that. The most painful pain is gonna be mitigated. So go through that physical pain. Crazy. It's crazy, but it's true for him.
Jordan, what you got?
Yeah, it's, I mean, I'm wincing just watching him do this kind of thing. So it's like, the need to, I imagine this is probably something he figured out when he was a kid, that if he does outrageous things, that other people will give him attention. And so you just have to keep upping the ante slowly over time. I imagine he didn't start there. I imagine it's, you gradually, you figure out, if I do one thing, because I remember, back in grade school, there were other kids who would do, kind of, I don't say super painful, but kind of outrageous things to get attention. I think we all probably have seen other kids like that.
This is Marilyn Monroe and Robin Williams. They were both extremely neglected in their childhoods, just like Steve-O. And they both went into careers that got them tons of praise, validation, approval, money, all of that stuff. But those two still self-deleted because outside validation doesn't rewire these traumatic core beliefs that got in your subconscious in childhood. It provides temporary relief. That's it. Unfortunately.
So a number of people, are you done, Jordan? I don't want to interrupt.
Yeah,
you.
I'm done. Go ahead.
Okay. A number of people would think, if they didn't know Steve-O or see this clip about physical and emotional pain, that he was addicted to pain. And that's what the outward showing. But what we know is that, from his own words, that he's looking for the reaction of the crowd, good or bad, but as long as it's loud. You could imagine this guy at 12 years old tripping over a door, coming into a room in a classroom and hitting his head on a desk, and everybody laughing and screaming at him, that he immediately realized, wow, they're noticing me.
They're not ignoring me anymore.
Right. So what's he do? He develops this racket where him and his buddies, which are probably just like him, are receiving validation and an upward level of the class world and money eventually by doing that painful thing. So he just sits around thinking, what's the dumbest, most painful thing I can do? Well, I can roll on a bunch of man-o-wars on a beach. It's going to sting me, but they're going to laugh, right?
And now I'm not ignored anymore.
I can fall on flaming coals, right? Nobody else would do that, but I'll go do that because I'm going to get that validation from my crowd. So it is very evident that he is addicted to and needs to function this external validation and approval of his self-worth. And quite frankly, he needs to get that from the inside, and he won't need it from the outside.
Once you fix your inside and give it to yourself. This is not, there's a lot of parallels between what he's doing and normal addictions, because normal addictions in the long run, now at first, normal addictions like alcohol, cocaine, it's all upside, heroin, whatever, all upside. But we all know in the end, the price people pay is terrible. Those addictions after a while just start causing tremendous damage, tremendous pain. But the reason people keep engaging until the addictions stop working, that's where they'll go to AA. And that's what they call hitting rock bottom, etc. But as much damage as drug addiction and alcohol addiction can cause, it is mitigating their internal toxic shame. It's numbing it out, like the Zoloft numbs it out, just whatever, or it makes them feel good, releasing, serotonin, dopamine, etc. And so they're willing to pay, addicts are willing to pay the price of all this long-term terrible damage from addictions because it is mitigating the worst pain we have. The worst pain humans experience is toxic shame. I'm not good enough. No one loves me. I'm unlovable. I'm unworthy. I'm hopeless. I have despair. I'll never be good enough. I'm weird. I'm a creep, just whatever it might be. I'm inadequate. I'm an imposter. I'm falling short. Whatever that toxic shame may be is different for different people. One person feels evil, the other feels coward, the other feels worthless, another feels like they're just falling short. That is the most painful pain we have, and we will do all this other crap to cover it up or mitigate it, even if that other stuff causes horrendous damage in the end.
Right.
That's how it works.
That is it. Let's roll. That's good stuff.
Where do you think the desire for attention comes from?
Ah, man. I don't believe that you have to be Sigmund Freud to look at my childhood and having the corporate executive father who's shit was popping off, man. I was raised by servants and spoke my first words in Portuguese because I was raised by servants, because my dad was the president of Pepsi Cola and all of Brazil. And so my parents had it going on, their life was popping. And I think that I didn't get the attention that a baby should get from their parents. And I think that created a vacuum on some level that please love me. Maybe I think that when parents when parents don't pay attention to their baby, that creates a vacuum.
Yeah.
And then that's not necessarily an indictment of my parents.
Sure.
They did the best they could. They didn't know.
Yeah.
I'm certainly not mad at them for it, but I think that it just checks out, especially because, with my dad, traveling and being so immersed in his career, and my mom was very active in alcoholism. So that I think that it all created a bit of a void where I didn't feel that I was getting the love, and so it's like I need to be loved.
Man,
like I
he
look
is
everywhere for
so
love,
on
and
the
that's-
money.
There you go.
He is on the money 100%. I mean,
Yeah.
raised by servants. So the two people that he was supposed to look up to for survival and love and teaching and adoration and guidance and stuff ignored him. His mom
Yep.
was an alcoholic. His dad was never there, raised by Portuguese servants who he didn't know. I mean, can you imagine the confusion inside this guy's mind?
Yeah,
And he's talking about what he wants. He wanted love. He wanted attention. That's what they need. That's what babies need.
now he's getting it, but it's only a temporary fix.
Correct. Every single
Because-
time he gets it, it's over the minute he gets it.
And that's because as children, when we know very little as babies and children, and we're trying to figure out the world around us. Who am I? What's my value? What's my mom like? Dad like? What are other people like? What do I need to know about the world? And things are happening. His parents are ignoring him, and the strong tendency for children, if they're neglected, they can say, "Well, I'm powerless. There's nothing I can do. No matter what I do, they'll keep ignoring me." Or a child can say, well, there must be something I can do, and then they'll love me, and then I'll get the love and approval I need because I'm being neglected. Children always choose that path. There must be something I can do because now they have hope. But when they try to get that attention and never get it, after a while, they draw the conclusion, well, it must be my fault because I could have done something to get their love, and they didn't give it to me, so I must have done something wrong, and I'm not good enough. They don't love me because I'm not good enough. That's toxic. Once that gets in your brain, our subconscious mind, 75% of our subconscious beliefs are in us by age 8, 95% by age 14, 15. Once they're in there, it's like soft clay hardens, becomes hard clay, and it's just rigid for the rest of our life unless we go down and literally change it. And if you don't do that, then all this outside validation is going to haunt you the need for that will haunt you the rest of your life. Something very interesting about Robin Williams, there is an HBO documentary. It's on HBO Max. I think it's still there. It's called Come Inside My Mind. It's the life of Robin Williams. Talks extensively about his childhood. Extensively. And what's really interesting is his parents ignored him, Robin Williams, and then they were on this estate where there was no other kids close by.
Mm-hmm.
Or they were out in the country or wherever they were. And so he would just play upstairs in his room with his toy soldiers. But they had a maid who was also his nanny who raised him, just like Steve-O was raised by these Portuguese-speaking house help or nannies, etc. Robin Williams becomes a comedian, becomes a star of that show, Mork and Mindy in the 70s, becomes a big hit, very successful sitcom in the 70s. So now he has millions of dollars. Now he buys his big house, and now he can afford a maid for the first time. Within a few years of hiring that maid/nanny, he divorces his wife to marry the maid. Why? Because that was his source of love growing up. That's his subconscious saying, this is where I can get love. So the maid who raised him as a mother figure, he literally saw that as a source of love, and as an adult, divorced his wife to marry his own maid. Crazy, but true. That is how powerful our subconscious mind is. And as we know, all that outside validation, everyone loved Robin Williams. Everyone loved him. One of the greatest comic genius of our generation. And he's still self-deleted because that will not fix your trauma.
Yeah, the minute, like I said before, the minute the applause is over, the external validation effect is gone.
Yeah, it's temporary relief. That's it.
And now you need more. And
so
that's
you keep that's addiction. You keep chasing to numb out and mitigate the pain.
But that's why Robin Williams would become so manic in all of his efforts, because literally seconds after that validation happened, he needed more and he needed more. And there's just never enough of that bucket of external validation, it's just never enough.
And he
Period.
struggled with alcohol and some types of substance abuse. He got sober for a long time, but he needed that too for a long time.
So I can tell you that if I fall on a man of war on a beach, I would not need to do it any longer. Nor would I pursue.
You wouldn't do it in the first place. Yeah. But I would laugh at you and give you validation that way.
Right. That can't be fun. It cannot be fun. And to answer Gabe's question, this shirt is a Peter Miller shirt. It's one of my business shirts. Just happened to toss it on this morning. I generally like my tie-dye and stuff like that, but I guess this more fits in. But it is a Peter Miller shirt, Millar. And this one happens to be the Calgary Crown Light, burnt orange. There you go. And I got it at the Von Mar store, but you can buy them online.
So Gabriel, we're maybe know a little bit what you're talking about, not 100%.
He's talking about, so the first
Marine
comment
Corps?
he said was the Marine
I
Corps
read it.
boot camp. Well, I think he was talking about, go ahead.
I think he's joking a little bit.
Probably joking.
Because in boot camp, I went through Navy boot camp, and it's probably a lot less extreme than Marine Corps boot
The
camp.
U.S. Army, 22 self-deletions per day.
Right.
Yeah.
So it doesn't change it, but he's sort of serious. It will give you attention. If you want attention, you will get attention until you straighten up.
Yeah.
And it certainly is indoctrination. I'm with you, Gabe. 100%.
Gotcha.
And they will at least give you something if you need it to discipline yourself and move towards. But again, that doesn't change the underlying issue if you have one going into that.
Yeah. The military definitely does not heal people's trauma.
Right.
It may make it worse, but it doesn't heal it. But
That is the truth.
Well,
that is the truth.
I think that perhaps there's because I have family members who have been.
Some people can get purpose and meaning from the military, and that's awesome. I'm not
That's what I was
trashing
going to
them.
say is if you've, I won't say specific. I have family members, for example, that, their fathers were particularly abusive. They moved out when they were young.
Mhm.
And that kind of thing. And the Marine Corps gave them a sense of purpose, a sense of like, I am part of a team, I'm part of a brotherhood. So they give them that.
It'll discipline them too.
Included.
Yeah.
Right. And so it's obviously those are all external things versus obviously we talk about internal, on this show. But, I've seen people, they get, people need that sense of purpose, like they're included, like they're part of a club, like they're
absolutely
validated. So certainly, and especially if you're all going through, boot camp or training together, you're struggling, you're suffering a bit, but you're going through it as a group. And so that makes you feel it takes some of that the pressure off. Is like you're suffering together. You're going through.
One of the subconscious traumas that we deal with, which is of course based in some toxic shame, is not belonging. Now, number one, you need to start belonging to yourself, and then you can belong to a bigger group with a purpose that you find attractive and wonderful. The USMC may be that. The Army could be that. The Marine Corps, being a journalist, whatever it is. Yeah. If you're wrapped up tightly on the inside and you belong to yourself first, the rest is easy. But if you don't belong to yourself, then all of those organizations will give you something to belong to for a while.
Yeah. But
eventually you're going to be alone at some point, and then the things that will come back is you don't really belong to anything, even though you have that group.
Yeah, and one thing I do want to add to this is if your subconscious trauma, which are beliefs tied to painful feelings that don't serve you, that's subconscious trauma, and it often arises from abuse, neglect, whatever, it can be other things. If it's moderate to mild in intensity, then a lot of repetition over time as an adult, repeatedly experiencing things that challenge that narrative can partially or even mostly rewire out of you that mild to moderate trauma over a long period of time. Mm-hmm. Our brains are neuroplastic with repetition to a point. But if you have severe trauma, like severe neglect, that trauma is stuck in there, man. It is stubborn unless you use, you know, what I call super neuroplasticity, which is either through specialized hypnosis techniques or in certain instances, psychedelics can also make your brain super neuroplastic and rewire this trauma. But a lot of psychedelics are most effective with guided sessions like what we do. So,
and by the way, if you're a jarhead, Gabriel, Semper Fi, thank you for your service.
yeah. Thank you for your service, sir. And so mild to moderate, you may be able to address without going in and rewiring like we do, or you know, a guided psychedelic session, etc. But man, the severe stuff, unless you bring out the big guns, it's going to haunt you the rest of your life.
Now, I will let you in on a secret, Gabriel. The best Marine is a submarine. And of course, that's what us submariners talk about.
Yeah, Tim on a submarine crew back in the day.
Anyway, let's keep rolling. It's good stuff.
Onward and upward.
I think what attention seeking is.
Are you comfortable being so open about everything? Was there a point where you've learned how to be just so brutally honest? Because it's for us, it's very rare that people speak so candidly or are so open about these situations.
It's a good question, man. I think that there was some I think that's kind of built into me to begin with. And I think that the process of sort of living in recovery, like there's you know, with the whole like 12-step approach to life, like taking accountability and being rigorously honest is really at the forefront. So I'm super grateful to be so conditioned to own up to my mistakes, to admit when I'm wrong, to tell it like it is, and just to, you know, be transparent. I attribute some of that perhaps to my DNA and a lot to living in recovery.
You know, he's a lot more sensitive guy than you would give him credit for when you see all the movies and see him in other interviews. Yeah. This actually was a pretty good one that Graham sort of got him to open up a little bit and talk about this stuff. But he is a hurting individual.
Yeah, man.
He's in a lot of pain. And maybe, hopefully,
I'll fix you, Steve-O, if you ever watch this.
I sent Graham a note, so maybe he'll reach out and, you know, want to be a little more intrigued, and we can explain to him what's going on. But, you know, if you could fit Steve-O, what a beast he would be on top of what he's doing already. Now, one of the things you'll notice about Steve-O is he has a lot of tattoos. Why do people get tattoos? A little bit of pain, a lot of attention, right? People see your tattoos, love your artwork. You know, it's that constant, hey, that's a cool one. Where'd you get it? You get to talk about it, open up, that kind of stuff. And that's one reason some people get a number of tattoos.
Yep. Okay.
But Gabriel, I have a book signed by Tom Clancy. I met him in 1986 or 7, maybe 89. Whenever one of his books came out, he loves submariners, and he used to go to this store, which isn't there anymore, called the Paperback Booksmith in the New London Mall in New London, Connecticut. And of course, he's dead and he won't go anymore, but he was always there for the first day of his book release.
All right. So that's all I had.
I think...
Zoramina asked a question. Go ahead. I'm sorry. Go ahead, Jordan.
Yeah, I think it's interesting that he was talking about why he was so open about that. I don't know. I think maybe it's a selection bias because we always parse the internet for these kinds of clips. But I feel like a lot of people are, at least a lot of the people that we've covered, seem to be fairly aware of like
what they're going through.
They just don't know how to fix it.
Yeah.
Yeah. I don't think
they go to psychotherapy and they're like, wow, I have more awareness. But go ahead.
Right.
Sorry, Jordan.
Right. And so that's kind of interesting. I'm surprised Graham and I can't remember the other guy's name, but they were like, people usually don't open up to us about why that kind of stuff is. And so maybe they just haven't had certain guests on, because I feel like I see it all the time where if guests, maybe they just don't want to go into it, is also possible. And it's also possible, we have, again, selection bias because I hunt for this stuff. So maybe
Yeah.
it's less common than normal. But, I thought that was I thought that was interesting. You wanted to,
Yeah. Zoramina, welcome to the show. I haven't seen Zoramina here before. And yeah, I wouldn't put a bumper sticker on my Ferrari, but some people would, to each their own, in reference to tattoo. I actually have 0 tattoos. So
I don't have any either.
I have one.
you have one.
I'll never get
got like
another.
the lowest tattoo count probably of any group here on YouTube. one tattoo out of 3 people. We are like super low tattoo group.
It's a 0.3 tattoo level.
Yeah, I don't really have anything I want on my body forever. I'm thinking like when I'm 80, I'm like, am I still gonna want this? Still? I'm like, probably not.
If I'm 80 and still alive, I'll get a tramp stamp on my back.
I think that my tattoo has seen 1 hour of sunlight since 1990.
Nice. All right.
It's a rose and it's got my wife's name across the banner on it.
Oh, that's sweet.
And I got it in Scotland from a guy who had a tattoo around his neck. It was a dotted line. He said, "Cut here."
Yeah. Good times. Good times.
How old were you then?
19, whatever, probably 30.
30.
29.
Brock Lesnar, former UFC fighter, and he's in the WWE. He has a tattoo of a sword going up into his neck like that, piercing his neck. And he said, yeah, he did that because he had I don't know if he said self-hatred, but he said he had a lot of dark inward energy directed towards himself. And the final thing I wanted to point out is our society celebrates mega successful people so much. And his dad was mega successful, CEO of PepsiCo South America. Is that right? Brazil. So CEO of PepsiCo in the Brazil division, multimillionaire. Family life, a complete failure.
Yep.
A complete failure. Wife's and so I think it's great making money. I used to own a Porsche. Now I'm in Mexico City. I've had BMW M cars and convertibles and all. I love that stuff. I don't have anything right now as far as a car because I'm in Mexico City and I'm terrified of the traffic here, so I'll just Uber. But it's great. But it's so much of our society looks at that one thing, and that is that's terrible because there are people don't make a lot of money who have fantastic lives. My old career, which I still do somewhat, estate planning. I regularly do planning for people worth $30 million, $60 million, $10 million, $5 million, over $100 million sometimes. And some of them have great lives and some of them are freaking miserable. It's, don't measure your success solely by monetary or career success. There's so many people get messed up by that. And that's his dad. Great CEO of PepsiCo. And look at your home life. It's a total wreck.
I'm going to make an inference that or just a guess is that perhaps his father also had that feelings of inadequacy. I'm not going to neglect my family to try and build up this business to make as much money as I can so that I feel good enough about myself. And, because, self-esteem seeks its own level. You saw his mom was an alcoholic. So that likely means, if, there's probably a geometric theorem that says if she has alcoholic, there's probably he has similar issues.
Oh, so, yeah. If you marry an alcoholic, you probably got trauma too. Like attracts like.
Right.
Now, remember.
You certainly do. Very, very likely you do.
Remember that broken people make broken people. You can't get a solid individual out of 2 broken people. You will sadly do to them what was done to you because you don't know any different and it seems correct to you. So the real issue is how do you break the family tree and how do you move on successfully? Now,
Clear trauma.
the mother was an alcoholic, so you know she had issues. She was drowning it. And the father was a high achieving executive. No idea if they were
Alcoholic.
drugs or alcohol or whatever involved, but he was a high achieving executive.
And
Now-
probably a workaholic. Probably.
Absolutely. Now we go to Donald Trump, right? Let's talk about Trump. He's going to be in charge now. That is a man with some trauma. I'm telling you, his dad was tough as nails, and everything in the home was business, achieving, you know, all this kind of thing, looking at the trappings of success as the measure of an individual. And as is evident, now he doesn't drink, he doesn't smoke, doesn't do drugs, but man, he is addicted to work. 3 to 4 hours of sleep a night. He's up and he's probably hitting the street rolling. The minute he gets up, loves contention, loves you talking about him. So I can promise you that his mom and dad didn't give him a lot of attention in the way he wanted when he was a kid.
Very
So-
likely.
And but every one of these people who are broken still have tremendous skills in other directions and tremendously wonderful attributes, right?
Yeah.
So we don't discount the whole individual because they've got this problem, right?
Yeah.
We want to help them with that problem so that those attributes they have that are so wonderful shine a whole lot brighter.
Yeah. Totally agree. People are way more nuanced. Things aren't as nearly as black and white as people want them to be. You know, I think I've said before publicly, for example, I think Andrew Tate is a straight up sociopath.
Yep.
Just a straight up sociopath, very narcissistic. Has bragged about his crimes publicly. That's why we know sooner or later he's going to jail. Although, you know, we'll see what happens with his current case, but he's been indicted in the UK as well as Romania now. But I did one show where I spoke very favorably of him because he did teach this one aspect that was spot on. So Andrew Tate has some good in him. There's some good things he does, you know. But you know, hey, Hitler was a monster, but probably had a few good things about him.
Most likely.
So yeah, I try not to you know, reduce people to just black and white. They're good or they're bad. For most
Correct.
people, it's a combination of the two. One person can be way more good than bad. Another person can be way more bad than good, but it's never like all the way one way or another. People are nuanced. Yeah.
Yep. And by the way, Gabe, he has 3 sons. One is 6'4", one is 6'7", and one is 6'9". And that Baron is 6'9". He's the tallest. And Melania is a beautiful woman. I don't know if she's a 10 because I don't know her. And I judge people by character, and she seems pretty good. And by the way, I'm a
does
Trump
have a book
supporter.
she wrote. You can
So,
read her book
yeah.
now too.
So I'm not poo-pooing Trump. I'm a Trump supporter. I mean, I like a lot of his attributes, but like everyone else, there are things he has that he could work on
Yeah.
where he'd be a lot freer from him himself.
I think he is what our country needs right now.
There's
Hopefully.
no question. No question.
Hopefully he
Gabe-
can execute. We'll
Yeah,
see.
Gabe,
That has
she's
remained-
smart. She's gorgeous. She's not my kind of gorgeous. I like the Irish cute girls more than anything else.
Yeah.
But you know, nothing against her. She's her own woman. But I don't know her.
Yeah.
I can only judge her from afar,
True.
which I don't do.
Yeah. And no, I probably would not shave my head. I think, are you referring to the military? I'm not sure. Like, if I
Jill
had to,
Biden, man,
yeah, I
she's
guess.
a hottie. What a blonde, huh?
All right.
Anyway,
So I think that's it for today. Any final comments, guys?
no, sir. We covered it like we cover every week. It's been wonderful.
Okay, so
Yeah.
next week, I already have our topic lined up for next week, and guys, I will do the announcement way farther in advance. I set up my camera and everything. I'm like, oh crap, I haven't done the YouTube announcement yet. So this is last minute, but next week, Gabor Mate wrote a book called When Your Body Says No, and it has so much interesting stuff in it. So I'm gonna find. I found one video commenting on. I'm gonna find another one. There's actually been studies show they did, just to give you a tease for next week. There's a psychological study where I think it's oncologist is for cancer. They asked oncology doctors, a group of doctors, can you tell which of your patients has cancer before you do the testing, whether or not they have it, just by their personality? Odd thing to ask, but that was his study. Can you tell which of your patients is going to test positive for cancer based on their personality? And the doctors who gave it a shot could predict with 96% accuracy before the test results came back based on the personality of their patient, which ones had cancer. And it's tied to repression of emotions. 96% of the time, the people who are repressing their emotions, the doctor used that to guess whether or not that person would test positive for cancer or not. And that doctor was right 96% of the time. Emotional repression, looking for people who are emotionally repressed, a little too proper, not being their authentic selves. And those are the ones that test positive for cancer. We're going to cover that next week. It's going to be baller. You're going to want to be here for that. Zoromina, thanks for the show, coming in, and your comments. Same thing, Gabriel, and everyone else who's commented. We love your participation. We'll always answer any questions you have. And that's it for today. I think the world is on a precipice of the new stuff coming in, the type of things we're talking about. They know that, listen, Zoloft and all these SSRIs, all that medication, the data shows it only works for 40% of people. Normal therapy only works for 50%, and it takes forever. And most people, it doesn't fix everything. It fixes somewhat. And then half the people it doesn't work for at all. And psychedelics are becoming more accepted. I think hypnosis is too. And those are the real solutions. So it's finally time for this stuff, for the human race to up level, and I think, how they voted in the last election. Trump's not perfect. Trump's flawed, of course, but people are sick of the status quo. The status quo of a big bloated government, the status quo of an extremely corrupt pharmaceutical company, all these mega corporations that then fund the universities, who then won't teach our stuff because it would take business away from the pharmaceutical companies. So it's time.
It's a vicious circle.
Which is downstream of the
stuff to come in. We got the go to my YouTube channel, watch the video interviews. And I got another 6 I haven't even published yet. We got the receipts. This stuff really does work. You can use it. You can upgrade your life. And when you do, you're going to figure out and know what every single one of us, me, Tim, Jordan, knows, that you truly do have more power than you know. That's our show. Thanks for watching.